Welcome to the Game Changers podcast. In this 27th episode, we are thrilled to have Hutchinson and his father, Andy Brown, joining us. We appreciate you all for turning in once again to be part of the conversation. Tonight, Wendi is taking a break from hosting duties, and we are delighted to have Doug Orth with us. We are truly grateful for the support of Evan, Iggy, JC, and the TSA crew in providing us with this platform to engage with incredible individuals in our community. Join us as we delve into the lives and stories of our guests, exploring their deepest secrets, experiences with fantasy football, and much more. The Game Changer is not just a show. It has evolved into a cherished community for us, and we are excited to share this journey with all of you. Doug, can you help me please introduce our guests?
Sure thing. So I met tonight's guest in 2021 at the Kings Classic in Ohio, which was obviously part of the Fantasy Football Expo now. Do you want to know what my first thought was? Bob Long. Sorry. You want to know what my first thought was? Bob Long, why did you invite a high school kid and his dad to our league? After all, our league is fighting for respect and credibility as it is. The kid, I emphasize the kid, spent the next 6 hours earning my respect, especially in the auction draft where we battled for at least a handful of the same players. It honestly doesn't matter where he finished that year because the way he held his own in the draft was enough to earn my respect. The beauty of this story, at least in my mind, is how his dad is always there to support him, but allows him to do his own thing as well. I hope that is something that Carla and I are able to illustrate over the next hour. With that said, I would like to introduce our guest tonight, Hutchinson Brown and his father, Andy. Hello, gentlemen.
What's going on, guys?
Happening, guys.
Doug, I think, the funny thing is when you say, you initially looked at me and was like, why do you invite this kid here? I think everyone was thinking that at that draft. I think everyone was thinking that. I'm glad I earned your respect, though. I'm glad I eventually did it.
Yeah, that you did.
That's awesome.
And I'll tell you, because there was any number of times, there was at least 5 times I'm saying, Hutchinson, stop bidding on my guys. Yeah.
we were heated a few times. There were a couple of times where we were going after each other for the same player.
I think I remember one of the times I was sitting there over the side. I remember you turning around and lotting at him like, "Are you serious, kid?"
Yeah, I remember that. Yep.
Man.
Go ahead.
The whole drive he was talking about you. The whole drive, I remember he was talking about you. I still remember that drive.
Fantastic.
So talking about the kid, at the expo, at what age did you start your journey, and how did you get into fantasy football?
So I started playing fantasy football when I was like 11 or 12. I started playing fantasy ball around that time. I learned about fantasy football from my older cousin. Shout out to Isaiah. He might be tuning into this. He watches a bunch of my stuff. But we were at an Eagles game together with my dad and my uncle, and he was playing fantasy, checking his scores. This was like 2018, and it was like week 4 of the season. It was a blowout. So he was on his phone looking at fantasy, and I was like, "What is that?" And then he told me about what it is, and I was like, I had barely started being a fan of the NFL. I was a big Eagles fan, and I was like, "This seems really fun." So I tried it my first year in 2019. I got pretty lucky. My first pick in fantasy was Christian McCaffrey for his 2019 season, where he was like a superstar that season, and I won my championship in that year. I joined a random league with a bunch of strangers that I didn't know online on NFL.com, and I won that league. And then after a couple more years of playing fantasy, getting more experience, listening to a lot of shows, with the whole COVID shutdown, I was like, what if I started doing this stuff? What if I started making videos or making a podcast? So at 14, right before I turned 15, I put out a tweet and said, "Hey, I'm going to start a podcast next month. Check it out." And from there, it's blown up into a whole different thing.
That's amazing. To start at 11?
Yeah, I started playing when I was like 11, but I didn't start making content until I was like 14. So
he waited.
I waited a long time. Yeah.
To make that content at 14.
So yeah, it's
so
been
Andy,
over 3 years now.
Yeah. So Andy, he took it from you. You had something going on, and that's how he
No.
started it.
No.
Not
No, I got
from
him
you.
into football.
That's actually the funny
You
thing.
got
It
him
was
into
really,
football.
it was
You
so
have to tell me that
entertaining.
story, Hutch.
Oh man, to go to the expo, it was really entertaining because people would be like, "Oh my gosh, you must be so proud. This must be so exciting for you as a dad to see your kid following in your footsteps." And I'm like, "Oh no, it's not that at all. I actually am into fantasy because of him. I joined my first league in our friends and family league with him.
Yep.
My dad wasn't really all into sports growing up. I mean, we always rooted for the Steelers for some reason, and I don't know, my dad just we'd watch some games sometimes, but sports just wasn't that big of a deal to my family. And when Beck and I lived in New York for a long time before the boys were born, and then they were kind of raised in New York before we moved to Pennsylvania, we used to go to a ton of games, and we'd go see a ton of baseball, basketball, we'd see hockey. I mean, we just watched everything just for the entertainment of it. But our family here, just monster Eagles fans. I mean, they are just just crazy Philly fans in general, all things Philly. And so it ended up kind of exploding from there. So the time he spent with Isaiah, and then, I mean, not too long after that first league, I mean, the Eagles won the Super Bowl, and I feel like it was only a couple of years after you had started doing stuff, right?
Yeah, was that? I think that was the year after the Eagles won the Super Bowl. Because we went to the Eagles game in 2018.
Right.
That was
right.
I think it was 17 season.
It was the year Carson Wentz was coming back from that ACL.
That's right.
That was the year we went to that Eagles game. So I got into fantasy right. I got into fantasy right after the Eagles Super Bowl.
Well, we used to crack up because we're like, you became an Eagles fan and they won the Super Bowl.
After like
that's
2
just
years.
not fair to all the Eagles fans that have suffered for how long, and I know that.
My first year being like an actual Eagles fan, like watching all the games, was Carson Wentz's rookie year. So I watched that one, and then eventually he got into his stride, and then the Eagles won the Super Bowl.
So when Hutchinson talks about the struggle of being an Eagles fan from now on, we should just shake our head and.
Yeah, no, exactly. No,
just like shut it down.
No, yeah, I can't. I'm not allowed. I'm not allowed to say that. Yeah.
But Hutch, I have the same story. So when I became a KC fan, they won twice in a row.
Wow. Anyone that became a KC fan in the last like 5
Same
years.
story,
Oh yeah, no, yeah.
I mean, you hit the lottery. Like, that's incredible.
Yep. I know.
Yeah.
That's amazing. 100%.
Hey Hutch, I wanted to follow up on what Carla asked here. So, when did you realize that you wanted to do something more with fantasy football than just compete against friends or just random strangers in like 3 leagues? Number one, and then what gave you the confidence to start your own podcast?
So what I mean, I'd always listen to fantasy football podcasts, and I love, I'll shout out Jay Zacharyson, I will shout out the fantasy footballers, and a ton of others that are not coming to my head right now, but I listen to so many different shows, and they all inspired me with creating content. And I like, the thing is, like, before I got Twitter to like promote my podcast stuff, I never had an ounce of social media, not once. So I had no clue how social media worked. I was never a public speaker. I always got nervous, presenting in front of classes and stuff. So I'm going to be honest. I have no clue how I was confident to put out myself and say, like, you know what? I'm going to do a podcast. I have no clue how I got that confidence up. But I don't know. I just thought it'd be really, really fun to try it out. And that first tweet I sent out, where it's like, hey, I'm putting out a podcast in a month. I'm a 14-year-old. It just blew up, and I was like, oh yeah, I can do this. And then after the first few episodes, like, things got crazy for me, and things started to go crazy. And it's grown so much ever since.
And so the first question then when did you realize that you wanted to
sorry, I did not answer that question. When did I realize?
Was there a singular moment, or was it just kind of a
singular moment? Man, I think it was after the last, because I played 2 years of fantasy football before I started playing. Before I started doing podcasting stuff, I played 2 years. One was in just one league where I won that league. And the second one, I joined 7 different leagues, a couple of family friendly, a couple of still random leagues. And I won like 2 more championships. And I was like, okay, I mean, I've been listening to podcasts and following their advice, but I'm pretty good at this. Like, I can work this. I've studied a lot about the NFL over the last couple of years. And I kind of realized after that season, I don't remember a particular moment, but I remembered after that season being like, I think I could start like doing this, making videos and having fun with this and going for it. So I don't remember an exact moment, but it was probably right after the was that the 2020 fantasy football season? Yeah, right after the 2020 fantasy football season.
That makes sense. Go ahead, Carla.
Hutch, have you ever had an unpleasant experience considering your age
Unpleasant experience? You mean in the industry?
in the industry? Yes.
Oh, consider my age. Oh yeah, absolutely. I get trashed all the time for I get dogged on all the time, and everyone calls me a dumb kid who has no clue what he's talking about. And sometimes, like, the thing is, like, I'm still learning in this. When I'm posting on social media, when I'm doing things about football, when I study football, I'm learning about this too. So I mean, everyone's learning, but specifically for me, like, I'm still younger. I'm still trying to learn this, and I haven't been in the industry for so long. So sometimes I post things or say things that are like that clearly show my lack of experience, and it gets attacked pretty quickly. So I've had moments where it's been pretty tough, the amount of hate I've gotten. But overall, I think the community overall as a whole has been really welcoming of me, and I feel really blessed.
And Andy, do you come to the rescue?
You know what? I really don't.
No.
I mean, my wife and I, we
No.
No.
we were pretty independent, like kids. We got married young. We rolled out on our own. We lived abroad for a while. Like, we've always tried to encourage these guys to take chances, take risks, raise independent kids, and as much as you can. I mean, you certainly don't get everything right, but we try. And I think watching him, like, we quickly learned. I mean, in the beginning when he'd be on shows, none of you know this, but I'd be standing off to the side, off camera, listening to every single thing that was said to him, about to be like, say that again, and I swear I'll find out where, like, go at my kid one more time.
I don't think I even realized some of the shows.
But I mean, and my wife and I
side.
would sit downstairs and listen if it was something that was online, and we'd just be sitting there, and we started to see this shift where we're like, hey, he really knows what he's talking about. Like, if you see the way people respond to him, those are respectful responses. And yeah, sure, they'll challenge him, as they should. That's what the industry is all about. But he's holding his own, and we saw that shift, and it really started to go to increase, like, exponentially, relatively quickly for his age, I would say. And I mean, even recently, remember I sent you that comment, a snapshot of that comment that you responded to? I don't want to bring it up on, it doesn't matter.
No, we don't have to.
Somebody went at him about something, a take, and his response to the take was, it was so mature and just level-headed and even keeled. And it was just, he acknowledged what the guy said and went at him, but it said, actually, if you look back on a post I had, weeks ago, I had actually said the same thing, and I had built my post based on that and recent footage that I've seen. And he spelled out his entire argument, but didn't go at him, didn't insult him, didn't anything. No. And I felt like you've always done a good job with that. And he's never, it would be so useless for me to come to his defense, because they would just shred me apart and it'd become a fight online, and it's just so silly. But he honestly doesn't need it. He handles himself really, really well. So
yeah, I think part of the reason, like, I really try to be level-headed on Twitter. Like, the thing is, like, I'm not playing the PR game 100% of the time, because, like, I'm trying to be myself on Twitter. Really, I'm usually mostly a level-headed person. Like, I don't get enraged and mad and start throwing out comments at people. I don't really do that stuff. So, and I think part of the reason why I am so level on social media is because I never had it before. So I just kind of be myself always on Twitter. That's what I do. I don't like have a persona on social media that I replicate. I don't have that. I'm myself, and I try to be myself best I can. But yeah, that comment you were bringing up was pretty interesting. That's a whole different story. But yeah.
Andy, I'm going to get you involved here again. So bear with me. This is kind of an extended question, and it doesn't end with a question, but you'll understand what I'm asking when I get there. Okay. So I would love to have you share with the audience how this started from your perspective. Was it more Hutch proving to you that he was good at this, or was it just wanting to support what interest he had? I can imagine as a parent there was at least a little concern about encouraging a hobby that's technically in the gambling industry. Either way, I think people would like to hear how it all started, any funny stories or anecdotes that you have encountered as a result of being by Hutch's side during his more than 3 years of fantasy football.
Yeah. So sure. When he first came to us, I mean, I'll be totally honest. I mean, my initial response was kind of like,
no.
Well, no, my initial response was, yeah, you can like play fantasy football. But when he told me he was going to name it the Young Fantasy Mind.
Football, yeah,
right,
yeah, the Fantasy Football podcast, yeah.
And I was like, no, I don't like that. I was like, I don't like the word young and fantasy together. You're relatively obvious online reasons. I was like, it just I don't know. It doesn't sound good. You're 14. And he wanted to say that he was 14. And I'm like, I don't want you telling people how old you are. Like, I don't want them online. We tend to be somewhat, sorry, I hit my mic. We tend to be somewhat like protective about that kind of stuff. Obviously, he didn't have a social media account prior to this. And we're pretty protective of his younger brothers as well. And I didn't love that idea, but he kind of like argued it. He's like, no, that's kind of what makes it what it is, Dad. And my wife and I talked about it, and we're like, okay, well,
Yeah, Mom argued for me too.
she did.
Mom argued for me.
She said, I think it'll be a good name. Yeah, go Mom. And so we decided to allow it. And man, I couldn't have been more wrong. I think like people really embraced it. And so I think at first I was super hesitant. I saw it obviously as much more of a hobby. And I thought, well, that'll be cool. And let's see what happens. But like I said, when I started listening to his shows, he went from knowing a little bit and enough to carry a conversation and kind of hold his own to some degree on a show. I remember some of the early like Club Fantasy stuff you were on.
Yeah, dude. My first show wasn't even my own. My first ever podcast wasn't even my own.
No,
Club Fantasy. Club Fantasy
Oh,
FFL put me on, no pun intended, and I was their guest star for that night. And it was like a day after my first tweet, like a month before my first ever podcast came out, and they put me on the spot.
But I mean, he did really well on that. And then as he was on, he'd be like, "Oh, so and so asked me to be on," and I remember my wife Beck coming and being like, "Are these like grown men inviting him on his show at like 10:30 at night on a school night that he's going to be on? Is that what we're doing right now?" And I'm like, no. I'm like, I don't know, babe. I'll just hang out outside his door and make sure everything's cool. Let's keep the language to a minimum, guys.
Oh man.
But again, like everybody was super cool, and I think the real clincher for me was not only seeing his growth, but honestly that first expo. When we went to the expo. I remember
that first expo was insane.
It was great. We walked into the hotel and somebody came running over and said, "Oh my gosh, that's Hutchinson Brown." And I was like, "Are you kidding?"
No, yeah, but like the thing is, like, here's the thing. I had about 1,000. I just hit like 1,000 followers this time. I've been in the industry like because I went after like because I started tweeting like in February, March, and I went to the immediate expo in August. Like I went to that first expo, and it was the second expo that had ever happened for the Fantasy Football Expo like as a whole. But I went in, and Dad went to check in, and I was just waiting for him like about like 50 feet away. And I had like I had three people surrounding me talking to me already. And it was just like weird. And then Dad came over and was like, "Who are these people?"
Yeah. How do you know my son?
Yeah.
My life.
Get away from my son.
Yeah.
Yeah. Get away from my son. But Doug, like we talked about before, I mean, the community, the people that we met there. And I mean, I was blown away. I was like, it's a really good group of people. And yeah, it has its knuckleheads like anything else. Right. But for the most part, it's a great group of people and really supportive, want to see each other doing well and not trying to cut each other down. And people are just genuinely passionate about fantasy and about the sport. So seeing how he was growing, how he was being received, for me, it was like, I mean, number one, I want to support him in whatever he wants to do and help guide him through that as much as I can. But seeing that he was actually really giving it so much and seeing it actually like kind of be fertile in the soil, like see stuff actually grow from what he was doing. It was awesome. It was really cool. So it got a whole lot easier to support him in it.
Very cool.
That's a great parent, Andy. That's amazing.
Thanks.
That's
He
really
is.
awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, he really is. Yeah.
You're lucky, Hutch. You're lucky.
Very
That's
lucky.
brilliant.
Very lucky. Yes. Very lucky.
Yeah. So who is your greatest athlete at all time?
Favorite athlete?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I think I'm gonna shout out the man behind me in the jersey, Derrick Henry. I mean, I was always in love with Derrick Henry watching him play football. It's sad that this jersey's kind of like busted now because he's a Raven. But but Derrick Henry, I was just always in love with Derrick Henry watching him play football. He's been my favorite for quite a while. I would say Derrick Henry. But right now, man, I can't get enough of Jahmyr Gibbs. I've been Jahmyr Gibbs. I've been a Jahmyr Gibbs stan for even before his Alabama days. Like I looked at this kid and I was like, he's a good player. Like I love that kid throughout his college career. And then he came in the NFL and it was just like, oh yeah, this guy's gonna do something. This guy's gonna do something. I'm telling you, he's gonna go in the first round. He's gonna do something. and he gets picked by the Lions at 12th, and I'm just like, I rejoice. It was so amazing to watch that happen. I was on a draft live stream. I don't remember which one, but I like threw my hands up and screamed. I think I walked out of the studio at one point. I was just freaking out. I was so happy. But he's up there too right now. But for all time, I'll say Derrick Henry.
What makes you believe that he is a really great athlete?
I mean, Derrick Henry, oh man, I mean, his physical dominance on the field is unmatched. I mean, when you look at all-time NFL running backs, I mean, he is up there amongst the rest. And when you look at like all-time physically dominant players, he seriously is up there as possibly the best of all time. He really, really is. I mean, you just watch the stiff arm highlights, watch like just the way he can just truck people. Like he is just a ridiculously good athlete. Like I posted earlier today, we've got our yearly Derrick Henry workout video. Like it just happens every year.
Yeah.
We get these insane workout videos from him because he's such a beast. He's just the beast nature of him is what really draws me to him. He's just insane.
That's awesome.
I have two thoughts. Hutch, I'm sure you regularly go back to Derrick Henry's high school stats, right?
I've gone back to his film, the high school stats. I mean, the amount of carries they were giving him, it was borderline child abuse. I mean, it was just he was getting like 300 plus carries.
You telling me about
dude, he would get 300 plus carries in high school per season. It was like, you can't do that to a kid, man. You're gonna kill him. You're gonna kill him. You can't do that. Like it was insanity. Yeah, his high school film is crazy.
And my other thought there too. So you know that I do draft profiles, and so when I was going through the Jahmyr Gibbs film, you want to know what my high end comp was?
Who was it?
DeAndre Swift, the guy he replaces, right?
Yeah, he's the guy who's replaced in Detroit. Yeah,
and obviously he exceeded. But yeah, that was okay. Hutch, one of the cuter things I saw over the last season was how you got your girlfriend Kate involved in what you do.
Yeah.
So, when the two of you first started talking, what did she think about what you do, and whose idea was it to make her picks public, and how much did she enjoy doing it? I know that's a lot of questions, but I think
it's a lot of questions. I'll try to do the best I can to answer it all together. But yeah, I mean, I've been dating my girlfriend Kate for it's almost 11 months now. We're approaching 1 year of dating. It's been incredible. She is quite a bright light in my life right now. It's incredible to have her, and she really is a great friend of mine. And it was amazing when we first met. We first started talking. I told her about my fantasy football life and told her about all these things that I do. And she enjoys football. She likes watching football. Like she's part of the band at her high school, and she loves watching the games, roots on her team, and she knows the game, but she doesn't know NFL. She doesn't know the players. She doesn't really know the rules as much specifically, but she understands the game of football. So when I told her about this, she was very in. She was like, well, I'm not crazy into football. I love this. And she would always ask me about breaking news going on, what's going on in your world, like what's happening, is there drama on Twitter? Like she always asks, and she tunes into my shows every once in a while. I think she's actually tuning in here. She might be. I was telling her about it. I think she's on here. So Kate, hello, shout out to you, Kate.
What's up, Kate?
And she's gonna be so mad. And yeah, she'll be pissed off. Anyways, where was I? Yeah, she's really, really into it. She loves what I do, and it's been awesome. And when we talked about how can I get you involved? I would love Twitter to meet you and talk to you and I get you involved here. I came up with this idea because she's an ice creamaholic. Like she loves ice cream to death. It's her favorite thing on this earth. Like I'm probably behind ice cream at this point. Probably, I would guess. Like it's like Jesus one, ice cream, and then
solid 102.
I'm probably down the list, but maybe I don't know. Anyways, ice cream is her favorite thing on the face of the planet, and I was like, what if I color coordinated ice cream flavors to NFL teams, and you picked ice cream flavors to predict NFL games? She was like, that'd be fun. So I made like a whole logo, like I designed everything and I sent it to her and she loved it. And then we just went all in on it. And it was really fun to do.
What was her
videos.
record for the season?
Her record for the season, and she was at, I don't remember the exact numbers, but she was at like a 67% win rate. Like she was 2-1. And I remember seeing she was really good. Like, I mean, it's completely random, but she was so good. Like at one point she was like 10-1 in the season. And the second half she went more 50-50, but in the first half of the season she was like 10-1. It was so stupid. It was so stupid. And I didn't rig it. Like I picked random matchups that I thought were really close, and I try to do the best I can to make it really close games so that it was actually like not easy to pick the winners. And I try to make the ice cream flavors as close as I can, not to pick like a one really good flavor, one bad flavor, anything. And I try to like even consider what she likes better and to try to like head-to-head matchup, make as even as possible to make it as random as possible. She just kept picking the right one. And but yeah, she loved it. It was really, really fun to do that.
Is she coming to the expo?
I don't think so. No, I don't think she would love the expo. I think because she is, I mean, one, she's not like a crazy party person. She prefers to stay inside. I mean, she's surprised. I actually surprised her when I said it, but she's more of an introvert. She's not a crazy party person, and I don't think she would love being around a bunch of fantasy football nerds like me. I don't think she would enjoy that very much. I don't think she'd find a way to conversate with them very often. So I don't think she'll be there though.
Because we have women of fantasy, of fantasy football, so she can come with the women of fantasy football.
If I can get her into fantasy football, like she doesn't play fantasy, but she watches the games and she's learned more about football this year than she ever has, which is pretty cool. So if I can get her in a league, start playing fantasy, then maybe we could talk about that, have that conversation. But for now, it's a no.
If you are listening, we are telling you to come to the expo. We have Zumba there.
We need you to
so you will have so much fun.
and Kate, not all of us are nerds. Some of us are fine, upstanding people.
A couple.
Well, one of those two things anyway. Go ahead, Carla.
Andy, how are you prepared sometimes? How can you prepare yourself mentally to not like burst out on everything that's happening around Hutch?
That's a great question.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I think one for the positive stuff, it's just exciting to be a part of and see it happening. I mean, watching as he hits milestones from a follower standpoint, from shows that he was on. Oh my gosh, I remember. Speak about a positive thing. I can share an anecdote, right? That's okay. We were on vacation, right?
Oh yeah.
And he was going to be on a show. It was a Club Fantasy show, right?
Yes, Club Fantasy FFL. Yep.
But Mike Wright was going to be hosting the show. Yep.
No, I was hosting the show.
Sorry, you were hosting the show.
I was filling in and
Mike Wright was going to be on the show.
Yes.
Sorry. Hutch was hosting the show. Mike Wright's going to be on the show. Obviously, a big deal. I mean, I listen to the footballers. I've listened to the spitballers. I know Mike Wright is. And I know
same
how
here.
much he looks up to these guys. And I'm like, this is incredible. So we're on vacation, right? And we go to this. We're in the Poconos, this like little like lakeside resort, and their Wi-Fi is terrible.
Yeah, by the way, just interrupt. I planned this not for completely forgetting the dates of our vacation, and then I was like, oh, I'm gonna have to bring my recording stuff to this vacation house, and we're gonna do this here because I'm not canceling this.
So we had to like set up a portable studio in here. Back with my mom was like, we are seriously not planning our vacation around you recording, and I was kind of like, babe, it's Mike Wright.
Yeah, it's Mike Wright. Like we gotta
kind of have to work on this.
Yes.
So anyway, we get it all set up, and the Wi-Fi craps out, just completely craps out. We're down by the lake.
This is 5 minutes before showtime.
Yeah. Hutch comes.
Mike's on the show.
Hutch
Everyone's here.
Running down the hill. Dad, Wi-Fi's down. He's like, he is absolutely like melting down. And thankfully, we had gone ahead and bought. I bought like, I don't know, 100 gig hotspot or something data on the phone so that we would have it as a backup. And so we quick launched it, got back online, and literally with about 30 seconds to go, we got it in.
Yeah.
And so like I bring that story up because it was this like crazy intense moment, but then he had this awesome show, and it was such a highlight, you know, like early on. So being able to experience those kind of things has been just incredible because it's been thing after thing after thing, and seeing the people that he's gotten to meet and network with at the expo, and just on the various shows that he's been on, and even with the guys that he's working with, the football guys and DLF. I mean, it's just been really, really cool. So that has just been exciting to be a part of. I feel like I'm on the ride, you know, and I get to meet these guys as well. And I've, you know, built some pretty cool relationships with people doing this.
Yeah, everyone loves him. Like literally, like everyone loves him. It's amazing.
I agree.
The negativity stuff. There are times where, as a dad, where you're just like, God, people are terrible. I don't understand how people do the things they do online. Obviously, I'm a little bit older, and I didn't live my life online, and I'm just stunned at the stuff people are willing to say and put out there. But like I said before, watching Hutch grow in his maturity. I mean, he's been doing this now for
just over 3 years.
Yeah, you're almost 4 years now. It's. Kate just texted you and said Kate just texted and said, I am mad. I love that so much. It's so her, man. But seeing that
Don't
negativity and just right, and like allowing him to manage that, like seeing him grow in his ability to handle himself, his emotions, and not get hung up in the negativity around him and focus on the good stuff, has been really, really encouraging. And it makes me super proud of him, and honestly feel that much better about the coming years that he's walking into as a young man. Like he's going to have to do that stuff without us, and we're always here as resources, but he's already starting to be able to manage those things on his own, and he does it really well. So it's a lot easier for me to not worry about, but I still worry as dad.
Of course.
Yeah, honestly, like I never, like, the thing is, like, if he would have started getting involved, I would have told him, like, Dad, you need to just let me do this.
Yeah.
But I never had to tell him. Like, he really just never got involved. He always let me handle it. And I'm really appreciative of that, because if he would have got involved, I've been like, Dad, this is my thing. I got to be able to handle myself on here and deal with these people that are pushing me down. So I'm actually pretty appreciative that he did not step in.
And if you're not successful, people will not be targeting you. You need to know that. And sometimes people wants to bring you down to their level, but you always need to be here, and you're doing that.
People,
which is something I applaud you. That's really awesome, Hutch.
Thank you.
That's amazing.
Thank you. I watched it. Actually, I was on a live. I mean, I wasn't on a live stream, but I was watching a live stream. Andy Holloway, another great fantasy baller. He was doing a live Q&A for just, for crabs and giggles. He was just doing a Q&A, and I asked him a question. This was a couple years ago, and he answered it. And I told him, like, I'm a content creator. I've got, like, I was thinking I was at like 3,500 followers around the time. I've got a podcast. I've got a job in the industry. Like, any advice for me, moving forward? And one thing he told me that's stuck with me forever is that in order to have people like you, you're just gonna have people that don't, and you just need to accept that. So you're not gonna be nice forever. You're not gonna be good for everybody. You're gonna have people like you. You're gonna have people that don't. And if there's actually constructive criticism, if people actually have constructive criticism, then listen to it. But otherwise, just you gotta focus on you.
That's exactly what I was just going to say. We've actually stopped and looked at tweets and said, like, okay, is there anything remotely constructive in what that person said? And if the answer is no, keep it moving. There's no reason to even waste time or energy on it. There's nothing to take away from it, other than it's just not really worth your time. If there's something constructive and they actually had a point about a take that you made or something you said or didn't say, take a look at it and learn. Do better next time. That's the whole point. And he's been able to do that. So,
Kate, we love you.
It's a bit funny you say that, because I was kind of thinking something along those lines today, where even some of the feedback that you get on Twitter, it doesn't matter if it's Twitter or whatever social media, but even the stupidest person online can have a valid point. You just need to be able to say, okay, you can dismiss it within a second if it's stupid, but if you're like, okay, but you have to be able to internalize it and figure out, okay, is there a point? Is he or she making a point? Okay, if not, boom, go. If so,
usually, I try to, like, I really do, like because a lot of people want, like, when they tell me about trolls, just like completely ignore them. Anyone who throws negative shade at you, just ignore it. And I'm like, I don't think so, because sometimes negative shade actually has a point. There are people who post negative things just to hate on you, but they actually sometimes do have a point. Like they really, really do. Like, I'll bring up the story that Dad was mentioning earlier, but I posted, I really like Braylon Allen. I love what I'm seeing on film, and I think he's going to be a great fantasy ball asset, like something like that. Just very quick tweet. And someone posted, why? Like, why do you like Braylon Allen? Posting just this without any additional information is essentially useless. And he said it's what you TikTok creators do. You just post crap just to say crap. And I was like, you know what? He's got a valid point. There are plenty of people who just say crap just to say it and don't actually give you information.
Yeah.
So I replied with a tweet that I had done a full, like, film analysis, not like anything crazy, but a few paragraphs, now analyzing his film. And I sent that tweet to him, and I was like, if this kind of information you're looking for, there it is. But I also mentioned to him that I wasn't tweeting that just to say it, because there are plenty of people on the internet and on Twitter who are in the fantasy ball world who wouldn't be able to understand a lot of the information that I'd be talking about. If I were to post that in-depth information, people would be like, I don't know what this is, or this is too complex for me, or I don't want to read all that. Like, I don't like people would reply with a meme. I'm not reading all that. I'm sorry for you though, or happy that happened, or whatever meme they always send, something like that. You know what I mean? Like, people don't care sometimes about those longer thing. So I just put a quick snippet because that's what some people will really enjoy. And I explained that to him. He never got back to me, of course. I don't think he's gonna get back to me. But I sent that to him, and because sometimes the haters do really have a point, and sometimes you have to sit back and think, like, does this actually have a point? Do I need to change something about what I do? And usually to those comments, I will reply and say, hey, that's a fair point, but this, and this. But if it's like a troll, I'll just go. Like, I'll leave it.
Andy,
So
back to
being
you.
in high school.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, right.
So being in high school, Hutch, right now, you're 17. What's your plan for the future, especially that you are doing like fantasy football? Do you have any plans?
So, I mean, I'm taking some college classes right now at the local community college. I'm going to continue doing that. But quite honestly, I'm looking for the full-time job in the industry. Like, that is my future goal with this industry. I'm looking to do it full-time. I've been searching, craving for that opportunity. And I have a couple, things that I'm looking at right now. And I'm like, genuinely, I'm really all in on this industry. I'm hoping for a big future there. So, like, it's my plan, but it definitely has some variance to that. It definitely has some, maybe this doesn't work out, but that is what I'm shooting for.
That's amazing to know.
I'd like to follow up on that, actually. So I think I remember you saying at the expo that one of your favorite analysts, and I know you said it tonight, was JJ Zacharyson, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So do you have any desire to model yourself after kind of the things that he does, or do you like your current process and just want to continue to tweak it as you go?
Well, here's the thing. I mean, I was like, maybe I can be the next, fantasy ballers. Maybe I could be the next JJ Zacharyson when I started. But I was like, you know what? I can't, because if I like JJ Zacharyson, like, I'm just gonna shut him out for a second. He really is one of the best analysts out there. The way he processes information and the stats he throws out and the numbers and his models and everything that he has is just mind-blowing to a different level. I mean, I listened to his podcast today and I'm still mind-blown by some of the stats he's able to throw out and research on a daily basis. It's just absolutely insane. I can't be that. If I try to be that, I will not be it. I will be just less than him. I have to find who am I best myself. And I feel like I've been starting to slowly and surely find that space for me in this industry. So I will say I'm not JJ Zacharyson. I'm just not. If you're looking for that kind of information, listen to JJ Zacharyson. Don't listen to me, because I can go in depth. I can be that guy, but I can't do it to the level that Zacharyson can. I will never be able to, because he's JJ Zacharyson. He is a different being. So I started with that idea of like, I'm inspired by these people. I want to be like them, but slowly developing into, I got to be my best me. How do I fit in this industry? And that's what my goal has been moving forward.
Excellent that you already have learned that. It is so critically important.
I feel like I'm still learning that from me. So I'm gonna listen to Hutch.
Did you have a question? I can go with my next one, Carla.
Go ahead.
Okay. Andy, we were talking a little bit a few minutes ago about being a parent and everything. Part of being a parent is sacrificing for your kids. Can you shed some light on any sacrifices that you've made to support Hutch? Is there any desire to see any of the other family members get involved in this hobby?
That's funny. That's a good question.
I'll bring it. Do you have a sacrifice?
No, I'll tell it.
Okay, I think you know. I think you know what you're talking about. But
you have better know what I'm about to say.
Yeah, hold on, mate.
Lord.
Let's see.
Well,
let's see if the same thing.
The date of the expo.
Yeah. Yep.
The date of the expo is pretty much every time it's either the weekend that we would celebrate it, or it's actually the date is my wife and my anniversary.
Of course.
So August 15th. So it's and her birthday is the 21st. So that's normally a pretty big time of year. We would normally go away ourselves, go away for the weekend or something. So that changed 3 years ago. We don't. Our anniversary is we celebrate with Bob Lung. Yeah, that's what we do. We celebrate our anniversary out in Canton. Yeah, and that, every year it's just become a joke. Be like, my what Beck will be like, hey babe, what do you get? And what are you planning for anniversary? I'm like, I'm gonna get you a trip for me to Canton. That's what I'm getting for you this year. So, I mean, I have to give Beck a shout out here. Like, she's never been big on the date. Like, we have to celebrate on the date. Obviously, there's something wonderful about the date, and we cherish that. And we've been married a lot of years. We got married pretty young. So, but it doesn't have to be that date. So we can celebrate a week later, a week before. It doesn't really matter. And she 100% supports us getting to do what we do. So as far as sacrifice, I mean, I don't know. I mean, a little bit, some time, some money. I don't. What?
Bob Harris commented in there.
Oh,
Take
Bob
it.
Harrison.
Yeah.
What did he say? I didn't see
He
it.
said Andy taking his
Taking-
chances right there.
I love it. That's amazing, Bob. I love it. That's so good.
You were talking about sacrifices.
Yeah, I mean,
You're-
basically, I think some time and money, but what I get back in that is like exponentially better. I mean, every summer I get a trip with my oldest to Canton. It's basically just a road trip. We hang out, we watch football. I mean, we've gone to Vegas.
Yeah,
and done
I was
some
gonna say
stuff
lately
there.
winter we've gone 2 trips to Vegas.
Yeah, I mean, like I don't these years, like you don't get this time back. So for me to be able
No.
to take that time and go and enjoy that with him and watch him grow and honestly get to be included and a part of it, like just sit at the Kings Classic draft, meeting you guys. I mean, I've learned a ton and I've just enjoyed watching.
I go to
and
the
meeting
Scott Fish
people
Bowl.
that
You
I
were
know.
invited in this year.
Yeah, I
this
got to.
past year.
I didn't feel like I felt guilty that I got into Scott Fish Bowl, and we went to the live draft in New York, and it was incredible.
It's
I mean, it
beautiful.
was just so much fun. So I mean, I feel like my sacrifice has been minimal compared to the benefit and joy and just good times that I've gotten out of it in connection with this guy. So
That's amazing. That's just amazing. Hutch, if you can have one superpower, what will it be and why?
Okay, one superpower. Okay. Wow. I mean, well, if I'm thinking in a fantasy football lens here, I would like people to time travel so I can go to the future and get all my takes right. So I know exactly what happened in the season. I can get all my takes right, but then it eliminates the fun of fantasy football. And then it's not fun anymore. It's just like I'm clocking it in every day. That's not fun for me. So I don't know. I feel like flying would be really cool. I feel like the first thing that comes to my mind is probably flying. I think that would just be insane. And there's no like punishments there. Like you could say reading minds or things of that nature, but there's always so much punishment there with other people. Flying doesn't really have those repercussions.
it's just a trip. It's
just
a
a cool-
quicker trip to Canton.
quicker trip to
That's
Canton.
what that is.
Right.
I can carry the bags and fly through. Yeah,
That's huge.
The whole dad.
yeah,
and fly.
yeah. I carry all the bags, carry Dad through. Yeah. Well, I gotta be one trip because I ain't doing another 12-hour round trip to go back and grab stuff. It's got to be one trip.
So I
I'm
heard-
reminded. Sorry, Carla.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead,
Go
Carla.
ahead. You go.
I'm reminded. Have you ever? I'm sure Andy, you've seen Back to the Future too. Have you seen it too, Hutch? Back to the
Back
Future.
to the Future. I've seen Back to the Future, not the second one. No.
Okay. So in that one, Biff ends up stealing the sports almanac, and he amasses this massive fortune because he has access to all this sports outcomes from. I don't
Oh
know.
yeah.
And so I think about that on a regular basis when I'm doing this, when I'm doing now, granted, we would need something a little bit more specific, like player outcomes and not just team outcomes, but still. I think about how great that would be to have that sports almanac. But go ahead, Carla.
I heard you have a story at a funny story that happened with you at the expo. Can you both share that story with JJ?
Oh, the one we mentioned with Winter. So basically, for those who don't know, JJ Winter, shout out to him. He's a big fantasy football fan. He's been a fun guy in the industry to be a friend with. So my first ever fantasy football expo, I went to the Kings Classic drafts. You know, me and Doug were there together, and Winter, Mr. JJ Winter, was our auctioneer. I never knew who JJ Winter was. I never met him, never knew who he was, never saw his Twitter or anything. But it was really fun hanging out with him, and then we met up at the party that night, and we were talking to him. And we were both like, "What? Where do you live? Pennsylvania. Wait, where in Pennsylvania? Eastern Pennsylvania. Wait, where in Eastern Pennsylvania? We were like Bethlehem." And JJ Winter was like, "I teach at Northeast Middle School, which is our local middle school. I went there for a year."
Oh yeah, and then we said,
And here's
wait.
the thing.
No, but wait. There's one other piece I forgot to say in the story. I was like, wait, do you know? He said, do you know? He said, I said, do you know Danielle Frank? Danielle Frank is one of our
Great
best
friends of ours, yeah.
like best friend of my wife from when they were kids. Like their kids are like nieces and nephews to us. I mean, we're so close. They're like family. I'm like, Danielle Frank. I'm like, I've known her since I was like 12. You know, like he's like, are you kidding me?
I asked him if he knew Grayson, my best friend, his
Danielle's son,
and it was a huge click moment. JJ loved Grayson,
and then he went into,
we went into because I had recently joined a middle school fantasy football club at Northeast, and the guy's name was JJ or Mr. Winner or something like that. And I was like, and I didn't make that connection when I saw him at the expo. And we had never met each other in person before this Northeast thing, so we had no clue who each other were. And then we eventually made that connection, and then we had the season for the fantasy.
But
ball.
it was such a cool moment.
It was
Because
so
both,
cool.
Everyone kind of realized it at the same time, and all of a sudden JJ went, "Wait, you're Hutch?"
Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
He's like,
yeah.
Oh my god.
"Yeah," and he's like, "You're the kid that's helping me with the fantasy football league at Northeast Middle School."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Yes." We were in the middle of the park in Canton,
It was
Ohio.
freaking
It was
awesome.
so wild.
Crazy.
It was
That's
awesome,
crazy.
yeah.
Like
We still
to
laugh
be
about
at
it
the
to this day.
same town
Yes.
and to meet at, at like you
At Canton, yeah.
at Canton, that's insane. That's just
It's absolutely
insane.
insane. Yeah.
I just love it. I really
Yeah,
love it.
Guys, I know you're the stars of the show, but I gotta work a shameless plug in here since we're talking about JJ. So JJ and I are start our own podcast starting next month. Just to tell you how much I love JJ. We both do, but
What's the name of the podcast?
We'll start next
We're
month. What is it?
we're gonna
We'll start
go with-
next month.
the All Out Blitz is what we're gonna call it.
What is
It's gonna start.
What?
It's gonna start right after the draft, so May.
Sorry,
yeah,
what was that
maybe-
name? I missed it.
The All Out Blitz.
All outlets.
The
All
All Out.
Out.
All Out Blitz.
They're old. I mean,
Oh.
yes.
We can't call it the old. We can't call it the Old Men Podcast.
No,
He's
No.
the greatest. I love JJ.
that's amazing, man.
Tootsie,
will
we're gonna get
definitely be listening.
straight into the women of
Good.
fantasy football.
That's
Hutch,
She's
fantastic.
gonna kill us tonight.
Hutch, I'm going to go back to you. So most of the content I've seen you produce is on video, right? Right.
Correct. Yeah, mostly video stuff. Yeah.
Okay. I understand that is the way the industry has been moving for some time. You see things only moving more in that direction where written content becomes almost obsolete. Also, and one other question here: do you feel like you have found your home as a podcaster and just want to do that as long as possible?
So I mean, the thing is because I started with a podcast, right? I started in the fantasy ball industry with a podcast, and that was it. But I quickly learned that what people love about people in this industry, especially when you're looking for a job, is that they like you to do everything. They want you to be able to do everything. So I not only did my own podcast, like recorded it, but I also was my own producer. Like I edited, put in all the clips I needed, all the outro, intro music that I needed, all the transitions that I needed. I was my own editor. So that has given me opportunities in the industry. And then I started learning, I'll shout out DLF for a second. They gave me my first opportunity to write. Actually, no, it was Club Fantasy that did. I wrote an article for them,
right.
but it wasn't actually like hired by them. They just gave me one chance. And DLF was like, hey, we can hire you. We can get you to write articles for us. So I started writing for them and I developed my writing skills. And the funny thing is, I was never a good writer. Like I was never a good writer. I've always been pretty bad in English class. But I started to learn, the ins and outs of writing fantasy football articles, and I've really blossomed in it. And now I actually do that with football guys too. I've started writing some articles for them. I actually recently just posted an article with them where I took the lead on an article project for a series that we're gonna be working on hopefully over the next couple of months. It's called Grade the Trade, and essentially we're just grading dynasty trades and talking about it from a big, dynasty fantasy ball lens. It's pretty fun. It was an interesting idea and thing that we threw out
But you had
among
an
our company.
incredible editor in the beginning when you were writing, right?
Yes.
Who was your editor?
My editor in the beginning, I'll shout out. I think his name was James Simpson. If I'm remembering correctly, James Simpson at DLF. He was an incredible editor, and he really gave me a lot of advice and showed me a lot on how to write fantasy football articles and try to word everything right. And it really, really helped. So I'll shout out him. He was
Besides
excellent.
James, was there anyone that read any of your articles that helped you edit them at all?
He did too. Yeah, he helped me for a while. Shameless plug. No, he did. No, seriously, he did. For the first handful of articles, he read them and helped me with grammar and stuff because I was terrible at grammar. And eventually I got good enough to the point where I was good on my own.
Yeah, they were good.
So yeah, to answer your question, Doug, I don't think writing will ever be irrelevant. I think there are still plenty of people out there who love writing and will continue to love writing. But I think overall, I'm just trying to be a balanced analyst where I can do all the things. I can edit, I can make graphics, I can write, I can make podcasts, I can do stuff on video, live streamed or pre-recorded, does not matter. I'm trying to be the most balanced analyst I can be and be good at everything because that's what a lot of people appreciate in this industry, someone who can do everything.
If I can throw a personal anecdote in myself here. So my first public, I guess you could say public writing experience was at my college, my community college magazine. And
Nice.
I looked at that. I looked back at that, I don't know, a few years ago, just to see kind of like where I am now and where I was back then. And I don't get sick, but it made me sick to just read that. And like, because it was an article about Subway, the local Subway, and the things that they were doing there and whatever. Not anything sports related, right? And I'm just reading that. And I'm like, how did the teacher let this stuff get to a magazine? You know,
Yeah.
That's amazing.
and I thought I was good enough as a writer back then to do that, and then I read it now, having become more of a professional writer, having seen and work for some high end places. I'm like, how did this? Just like I said, how did this get to the public's eyes? This is terrible.
You were
Yeah.
in high school. Come on. It happens. Hutch, did you ever find yourself getting a little bored or burned out? And what keeps you motivated?
Oh, well, that's a great question. And the answer to that is absolutely. There have definitely been times. There have definitely been times where I've experienced maybe I'm burnt out. There have been a couple times where I've experienced that. Like it's usually the times I've experienced it tend to be towards the end of the season, where it's like that grind it's getting aggressive and it's getting hard and it's getting difficult, and it's been a while now. It's been a couple months, and it's just like it starts to wear on you a little bit. Because I remember specifically this past year, man, because I was a part of 4 different companies making content for all of them. I was all over the place, and I was in way over my head with the amount of leagues I was in, with the amount of posts on Twitter. I was just in way over my head. I really, really was. And I struggled that year a little bit, especially towards the end. But honestly, what keeps me motivated is, man, that's a really tough question. What keeps me motivated? It's that I still have the love for the game. Like the love isn't gone. Like I still love watching football. Even when in those moments, I love watching football. I love playing fantasy football. The love and the passion for it has always burned bright. Because if that's gone, then you're just done at that point. If the passion for something, if the love for something is gone, then you're just in trouble. Because if you're doing something because you should, or because you feel like you should, not because you love it, you're not going to make the content you want to, and you're not going to make it the way you want to. So I've always just tried to make sure, like, hey, I love this game. I'm in on it. I'm still passionate about it. I might just need a break, though. I might need to take a step back and not go in over my head. And that's what I did this offseason. I stepped out of a lot of leagues, and I've left a couple companies. I've not minimized my workload, but gotten more focused. Because last year I spread myself way too thin along a lot of different places, but now I'm more focused in on a couple of things, and that's really going to help me moving forward. So honestly, it's sometimes if you really feel that burnout, you just got to take a step back, or you got to analyze, am I in way over my head? Because usually the answer is going to be yes to that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Are you guys ready to go to the expo this year? Did you already book
yeah.
your ticket?
Oh yeah. We haven't booked any of the tickets or stuff yet, but we're
Actually,
hyped.
was just thinking about
We gotta get it right. We gotta get done.
I gotta get.
Yeah, because they're officially out. We gotta get to the double tree. We should get our flag football team back signed up. The Nacho Ninjas are coming back for 2024. I'm hyped. I'm hyped. Kate just texted me and told me to tell you that she loves you guys. And she thinks you guys are awesome.
We love her too.
I see the text coming up. I see the text coming on the computer. She loves you
Thank
guys.
you.
So I just wanted to shout you guys out.
Speaking of your flag football team, Hutch, I believe your co-host on Hooked on Fantasy is part of your team, is he not?
I believe he's been the last couple of years. The thing is, I don't know this year though, because I don't know, because the thing is, he worked with Personal Corner and all that, and High Point them, and they have a team. I've heard rumors. I don't know if Luke's publicized it. I've heard rumors that Tyreek Hill might be on the team, so we're cooked if that happens. We're cooked.
Are you actually serious?
No, I'm dead serious. Tyreek Hill might be on their team. No, I'm not kidding.
What's the point?
Like, I know it's just stupid. I mean, Dez was on their team last year, but he played quarterback.
Well, yeah,
If Tyreek plays quarterback, then we could figure things out.
Fine. He can't.
So-
But
If
Tyreek probably throw. He can probably throw.
If Dez has to be full-time quarterback, then Tyreek has to run with his arms and hands, right? He can't.
Yeah, exactly. He's like bear crawl. He can't run. That's not fair.
He'd
But-
still be faster.
No, he's still be faster. Yeah, he'd be crazy. But looking at, so I don't think Luke will. I don't know if Luke will be there next year, because I think he might be a part of that team, but he might come back for the Nacho Ninjas. So we'll see about Luke. But no matter what, I want to get a team together and get out there. I'm real I love playing football. Like I mean, I'd never done high school sports because I've just been so invested in the fantasy ball world. I didn't have time to put all that time in a high school sport and be all that invested, because when you do football, it's your life. Like really, it really is. It's your life.
Yeah.
But I've always done flag football, like recreational stuff, like dad coaches and my little brother, we play together. It's awesome. It's been fun over the last handful of years, but the last couple of years for the tournament, I've been so hyped. And this year, like I've been in the gym, I put on like 30 pounds in the last like 8 months. I'm so excited. Like I'm hyped for the tournament. I'm super hyped.
So are you in your best shape ever?
I would, yeah, that phrase threw her a lot. I would say, that's a great question.
Awesome.
That's a perfect question. I would say, yes, I'm in the best shape of my life, so I'm ready to go. Yeah, heck yeah, man. Oh my goodness, that's incredible. Yeah, I'm in the best shape of my life. I'm ready to go.
So one of the reasons I wanted to ask about Luke and everything. So I know one of the places that we can find you, it's Hooked on Fantasy. Just if you want to talk about how that came together and what you think of the future with that.
Oh man, so Hooked on Fantasy. So I've been hosting my own show for a while.
Oh, Scott Fish.
Scott Fish is tuning in. What's up, Scott?
Scott?
We love Scott here. But I was doing my own show for a while. Like I was doing my own thing for nearly like 2 years, and I was, I love doing my own show. I really did. But I also like thought maybe I could do more with this. There's something I could do more with. And I was thinking about like possibly ending it or doing something more with it. And Luke reached out to me. He's like, hey man, look, I've been trying to host Hooked on Fantasy by myself, and it's been really challenging. I can't do it by myself. It's too on and off. Because we've been friends in the industry forever. We had actually tried to do a show together for a while, but it just didn't really go through. But Luke called me. He was like, yo, you want to co-host Hooked on Fantasy with me? You want to do this? You want to rebrand the show and launch it with me? I was like, let's do it. Let's go for it. So I left my show to go all in with him. And lately, like at the start of the show, it's tough. Luke's schedule with baseball, he has a full-time team, like it's a full-time job with baseball. With our schedules got so inconsistent, and we had to keep changing days. But over the last couple months, we've developed consistency, and the show has really grown lately, and it's been awesome to see. So I'm super excited to continue hosting with him.
That's nice. What's the funniest thing that ever happened to you during like a show or something like that?
Oh, I got one instantly. So this is bad. This is kind of an embarrassing story. This is an embarrassing story for me, but I'm here to share it. So I was on a pod with Club Fantasy.
I'm not sure if I know which one this is.
I think you know. I don't actually know if you know. We were on a podcast with Club Fantasy, and it was me, Joshua, Ryan. I think Joe was on too. I'm not 100% sure. Joe was always on and off because of baseball duties for his team. But I know Ryan was on. I know Josh was on, and we were talking about Jeff Swain, the very deep tight end name, a couple years ago. And when the thing is, he spells his name Geoff, and that's how it's spelled. I had never seen that spelling for the name Jeff ever. Never seen that spelling. So I said Geoff Swain. I said Geoff Swain. The amount of ridicule that I got from Ryan and Josh, I mean, they were just hysterically like they let me finish my point.
That's amazing.
And then they went hard after me and just like it was all fun, but it was just amazing. Like we were like all of us were crying for like 5 minutes. We could not get over the fact that I said Geoff, and they were just dead. And it's still a joke around us to this day. Geoff Swain's a legend.
Did you ever watch The Substitute?
What's that?
The Substitute. Did you ever watch that?
You mean like the replay?
There's a show that's called The Substitute.
Oh no, I've never heard of the show. Sorry.
With Aaron, and they will say like the names in a different way.
Okay, yeah. Oh, that's what you mean.
Aaron.
Yes. So you did the same.
Geoff.
Yeah,
Geoff. So you did the same, Hutch.
Yeah, but no, that's exactly what I was. Yeah.
This is us as teachers at the first day of school. We do the same stuff. I kid you not. Until I get to know all my kids at the end of the year.
That's good.
Miss, you're saying my name wrong. Okay. I'm sorry. So it happened.
Yeah.
It happened.
I'll fit one. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yes, you can. Go ahead.
I'll fit one more thing in here. So you've got the audience of the blended division, and they're paying attention, all of them tonight, right? You got any trash talk you want to give to us?
Oh man, I don't know. Like the thing is,
Wow.
I haven't even like Bob hasn't talked to me about the drafts yet. I'm assuming I'm going back. I mean, like he said, we'd love to have you every year, but watch out, guys. I'm coming back this year. I've gotten better in the leagues every year. Every year I've gotten better. Like the first year, I made the playoffs in one, but got knocked out because there's 2 drafts every year. The second one, I made the playoffs in both. Wait, I've been in it 3 times now or 2 times now? No, 3 times. The second one I made the playoffs in both, got knocked out first round in both. This past year, I made the playoffs in both. I won a playoff game in both, and I made it to the semifinals in one of them. So I've gotten better every year. So I'm chasing
trajectory-wise.
trajectory.
I mean,
I'm chasing that
that's pretty
championship,
good.
man. I'm chasing
If
that
you look at the
championship. So
graph, that's decent.
I'm coming in this year. I'm really hyped for the Kings Classic. I'm excited. After 3 years
That's a
experience,
good
I'm like,
goal.
I got this. Now I'm ready to go. And I'm like, because like the last year, like it was crazy last year. Because every year, like I don't know, every year I'm like every time I'm on a show or like with a group of people or at the expo, I always feel a little nervous. Like I still get that little nervousness every single time. It doesn't matter what kind of show it is. Doesn't matter how small or how big. I'm always nervous. I always get a little bit of nervousness inside me. And specifically this past year at the expo, because I got to sit next to the one and only JJ Zachariason and draft alongside him and next to him. It was just like, this is just wild. Like I got to sit next to him, talk draft strategy with him. It was just stupid. Like
Yeah.
I am so it was just wild.
Yeah, Carla, he sat right next to JJ. Yeah, there was 12 other options, and he just ended right next to JJ. Go ahead.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's
Go ahead,
amazing. What's the silliest reason you have ever gotten yourself into? Like
What's the
in
what?
trouble. What's
Oh,
the
in
silliest
trouble.
reason you got yourself in trouble?
Like in the fantasy football world?
Anything you got yourself, like for the silliest reason you got yourself in trouble with.
Oh
What's
man, I
something
mean, I think the example I'll give is from the fantasy football world because it was just really dumb. I'm thankful I was able to make up for it and like own my mistake and become like that's not necessarily friends, but like actually just have the be able to talk to the person that I put down a little bit. So So I didn't mean to, but here's what happened. So essentially there was this guy he posted this like report that was coming out, and it was a smaller account. I don't remember the name. I would shout them out because they were excellent on this. They got ahead on some big time, like they got ahead on Schefter and Rappaport on this report. I don't remember exactly what happened. It was a little while ago. And he reported this before the actual breaking news came out from some of the big names. And I put in the comments, source, like question mark, like just to like make fun of it because I didn't believe that it was true. Like a lot of the comments were doing it. Like I looked through a lot of the comments were doing it, but I did it as well. And it was just really dumb. And I got called out for it and it was just really bad. I was able to apologize to him, make up for it, but just making that joke was really stupid. I wish I could take it back, but it's how it happens.
We
That was
all
probably
learn
just
from our
really truth I got in
mistakes.
trouble. Yeah.
It's great to own it. It's great to own it. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Andy and Hutch, anything else you need to say before we end up the show?
No, guys, thank you so much for having us on. This was good.
No, this is fantastic,
this is good.
man. It's fun. Whenever I get to be on this and have these conversations, like I see these people jumping on. Bob Harris comments.
Yeah, Bob
Fish
Scott.
comments, like if
even Greg was
like
here
the
too.
expo gets transported like in these little spaces where you get to share this cool thing. I love it.
Oh, she's
Rachel will be able to figure that out.
Yeah.
Hopefully we can figure that out. Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. Okay, so before we bid you farewell, a friendly heads up. Our show will be moving to a new day and time next week. Catch us on Wednesday at 8:30 Eastern Time. So starting next week, we're going to be on a Wednesday at 8:30 Eastern Time. We deeply appreciate our dedicated viewers for joining us tonight. We love you all. And before we sign off, Andy and Hutch, can you remind our audience, please, where they can find you and connect with you?
So, I mean, yeah, you can follow me on Twitter. I'm at HutchinsonB_FF. You can follow my dad at Hutch's dad, but he doesn't post anything or do anything. If you try to DM him, he's not going to answer you.
I might answer you. I would totally answer you. I don't put any interesting content out.
He doesn't check Twitter very often. But you can find me on Hooked on Fantasy podcast with Luke Sawhooked. You can find me at Football Guys. Do a lot of content creation for them, and I also edit the DLF Dynasty show. So if you're a fan of that, check that out.
You can find me
Thank
in
you.
person at the expo. That's
Yes,
it.
you
That's
can
all I
find him at the
got.
expo. He'll
That's
be wandering around somewhere.
Yeah, I'll be wandering around
Yeah,
getting a
'cause
coffee somewhere.
me and him are. It's funny. Me and him always separate at the expo. We're barely ever together at the
I
expo.
know,
We're always
you
separate.
gotta do your thing, man.
We're always, yeah, you got to do your thing. You're always
That's
talking to
true.
people.
That's
We're always
true.
wandering around.
That's awesome. A huge thank you once more for the Sports Affiliation for providing us with a fantastic platform to share our authentic stories and experiences. Join us for our upcoming episode of the Game Changers next Wednesday, April 3rd, where we will be hosting Tip Major from the TSA family crew. A special shout out to JC for his invaluable contributions behind the scene. We genuinely appreciate you, JC. Wishing you all a good night and continued good health. We look forward to seeing you next Wednesday at our new time. Have a good night, everyone. Bye.
See ya. There we go.
Ah.